Hey there guys, Zach here for Windows Central and welcome back to another video. Now today we're taking a look at the Windows 10 April 2019 update. This is the first of two major feature updates coming to Windows 10 this year and is packing a number of new features and enhancements over the last major feature update known as the October 2018 update released late last year. So yes, this is Microsoft's next big sort of update for Windows 10 and Microsoft has taken a step back with this one. So it doesn't include many huge new features, more improvements to existing features, streamlining the overall user experience. So let's start with the start menu. In this version of Windows 10, Microsoft has updated the default live tile layout to be a little bit more simple. In the previous versions of Windows, it was very noisy. There was lots of columns, lots of tiles. But starting with the April 2019 update, this has been simplified to just 9 tiles by default. Down here is where all of the sort of pre-installed or post-installed apps come from. So this has been a thing Windows 10 has done forever now, but after you set up a PC for the first time, the Microsoft Store will start downloading a bunch of recommended apps from third parties, and now most of those apps are in their own group, and this is handy because Microsoft has also introduced a new feature that allows you to unpin entire groups from the start menu. So as you can see here, we have Microsoft Store and a whole bunch of third-party games. I have every single app it downloaded is a game. That is terrible. But yes, starting with this update, I can now right-click this group and completely unpin it from the start menu. So I don't have to right-click, unpin every tile individually. I can now unpin that entire group, and I can also unpin this up here because that's another one of those games that get pre-installed by default. But yes, that's the new start menu layout. At the top here, we have a productivity sort of group here, and there's a couple of changes here. We now have Mail, Photos, Microsoft Edge, Office, which is a new app. We'll look at that in a bit, and a folder here which gives us access to a bunch of Office web apps. So this likely changes depending on whether your PC comes pre-installed with Office. If it doesn't, then the tiles here will take you straight to the web app. So if I click on Word here, that will open up Microsoft Edge, and I can now begin typing into Word. For some reason that opens in private browsing, which is not what I want, so let's try PowerPoint instead. So that should log me straight into my Microsoft account, and I can now start working on a PowerPoint presentation within the web browser. And then we also have the local apps for OneNote, Skype, and OneDrive in here as well. For some reason, Skype's in the Office folder. Although I say that, this isn't named, so technically you can call it whatever you want. Heh, let's call it Heh. So there you go. That's the folder by default. And yes, it's very interesting to see Microsoft pinning the Office web apps to the start menu by default. And you'll notice that a lot of these are using the new Office icons that haven't even been launched officially just yet. So that's very interesting to see. Now, if you're upgrading from the previous version of Windows 10 to this one, then you obviously won't see this default layout because it would carry over your current layout if you've customized it. This is more for those of you who are buying PCs that come with the April 2019 update, or if you're clean installing the April 2019 update onto your device. If you're not, then this layout will not be seen to you, and you can just carry on using your own custom layout as normal. So moving right along, let's take a look at some of the UI changes Microsoft has introduced in this version of Windows 10. So yes, Microsoft has focused a little bit more on user interface changes with this release. Some of them very subtle and a few of them quite major. So let's start with the context menus in the start menu. So context menus in a lot of areas now, including the start menu, feature Fluent Design, which for those who don't know is Microsoft's design language that it uses across all of its products. And it includes things like blur effects. So it's very hard to see here, but there's a subtle blur effect behind these context menus now, in addition to a hovering effect which is called reveal, and it follows your cursor around certain elements. You can see here that there's like a light effect that's following my cursor, and it looks fairly nice. And those same blur and reveal effects are available in jump lists in the taskbar area as well, so it looks very nice here. Again, you can see that reveal effect following my cursor around, and if you've paid attention to Windows UI before, you'll know that those reveal effects aren't exactly new to the operating system. They've been around for about a year now, maybe a bit longer than that, and they've been showing up in different areas over time. They were first introduced in the start menu, then the action center within apps, and now they're available in context menus in a lot of modern areas as well, which is very nice indeed. Now, that is of course a very minor change. Another very minor change is that the shade of dark that's used on the taskbar has been brightened ever so slightly. So yes, dark mode, this is still dark mode, but it is very slightly brighter now. Along with the wallpaper here, you may have already noticed that the default wallpaper has changed. It's now sort of lighter. And light is quite the theme with the April 2019 update, because if you jump into settings here and go to personalization, there's a new color option, or a few new color options actually, including this drop down menu here which allows me to change between light and dark. But the light and dark modes are a little bit more encompassing now. No longer does it just affect apps, it also affects the system UI as well, and that includes the taskbar, start menu, and action center. So if we click on light here, you'll see that the taskbar changes to a white mode, which looks very modern. And if we click on the start menu here, you'll see that that has changed, as well as the action center, and basically any system pop-up or user interface that you can think of has been themed white now. So yes, this is the new light theme. It looks very nice and modern, and it also lets us easily see some of the other UI changes Microsoft has introduced with this update as well. Starting with drop shadow effects. So yes, Microsoft has added fluent design drop shadows behind modern context menus and pop-ups in this release. So if I click on a tile here in the start menu, you can see that there's a nice subtle drop shadow here, which looks very modern. And as I said, this is available in basically any modern area you can find. It's available behind this context menu. If we jump into settings here and right click on something, you can see it there behind this context menu. If we jump into personalization and drop down this menu, you can see there's a shadow behind it there as well. If we go into Edge here and drop this menu down, you can see a drop shadow behind that. It is very nice. Again, a very subtle change. Most people probably won't notice it, but if you're somebody who has an eye for UI, then yeah, there's some nice drop shadows behind things now, which is very nice indeed. Jumping back into the start menu, starting with this release, a number of inbox apps are uninstallable in addition to the ones that already were. 3D Viewer, Calculator, Calendar, Groove Music, Mail, Movies and TV, Paint 3D, Snip and Sketch, Sticky Notes, and Voice Recorder are all apps that can be uninstalled now. So if you don't use the Mail app that comes with Windows 10, you can uninstall it, and that will disappear, and you will no longer have that taking up space on your hard drive. Now, to get it back, you simply just open the Microsoft Store and search for the app you uninstalled, because all of Microsoft's inbox apps are now available in the Microsoft Store to search for and download. So if we come here, if I knew the name of it, then that would help. Mail and Calendar. There it is. So if we click on that, you'll see here, I can now click on that, and that will now begin downloading and reinstalling to the PC. Microsoft is making it easier for those who don't use its apps to just uninstall them, so they don't take up space or get in the way on the start menu, which is a fantastic addition, and again, one of those user feedback things that Microsoft is answering here. Moving on to the Action Center, Microsoft has redesigned the quick actions editing and sort of usage system with the April 2019 update. It still looks the same, but if we expand it here, the brightness button has been replaced with a slider, which is something users have been asking for since Windows 10 first debuted back in 2015, but it's now here in 2019 and it works much like you'd expect. Now, you can't see it on the video here because it's only affecting the panel itself, not the video recording, but it is, I can assure you, changing my brightness on the screen, and it looks pretty nice. In addition, the editing sort of feature when it comes to changing and customizing these quick actions has been implemented into the Action Center. So no longer are you thrown into the settings app to change these. You can just edit them all straight from here, and I can easily unpin a whole bunch of things that I'm never going to use on this device. I can move around a whole bunch of different things as well, and then I can press done, and that's changed like that. Or if I want to edit quick actions again, I can add back the ones I just removed by clicking on add here, and that will add them to the Action Center. A very simple improvement here, but something that makes customizing the quick actions area in Action Center so much easier. And finally, one of the last UI changes I quickly want to show off is the addition of the blur effect on the login screen here. So if we press the enter button here, you see that the wallpaper blurs into the background when on the accounts page. A very minor change. It's one of those changes that if you're a UI fanatic, you'll notice it and enjoy it, but if you aren't, then you probably will never notice it anyway. So moving right along, the next noteworthy change with the April 2019 update is with Search and Cortana. Starting with this release, both Search and Cortana experiences are separate now. No longer is Cortana sort of forced into Search and Search forced into Cortana and vice versa. They both have their own separate experiences. So if we click on the search bar here, you see that there's now a sort of dedicated top apps and recent activities area, in addition to tabs up here, which let me go straight into searching for apps, documents, email, web, and more. Now, Search works how it has always worked. If I click on the start menu, start typing, it will just take me into the search experience anyway. Or if I click on the search bar, I don't have to click on the specific category to start searching for that specific thing. I can just search for it and it will start sort of indexing everything anyway. So the use case for Search has more or less remained the same. Just the experience here has been updated. All of the Cortana references and mentions have been removed and are now available in their own separate button here. If we click on this, Cortana will now start listening by default, and I can start talking straight away. Cortana in this release is sort of weird, I think, because although they have separated the Cortana experience, they haven't really updated it to take advantage of its own area now. So you can see it sort of looks out of place here. But it is here, so if you're somebody who does talk to Cortana often, you can now quickly get access to it with the single button. However, if you're somebody who doesn't use Cortana at all, you can now simply right-click, hide the Cortana button, but still have that search bar there if you like that, or you can even minimize the search bar to a search icon if you don't like having that bar take up all of the space on the taskbar. So yes, if you're somebody who never uses Cortana, you can more or less just sort of outright hide her from the taskbar now, which is very interesting. Or if you're the other way around, if you never search your PC but always use Cortana, you can have it the other way. You can click on that and that will begin listening as it would normally. So yes, if we jump back into the sort of search experience here for just a second. So down here you get your recent activities, which is essentially just a consolidated version of Timeline. You get your last 4 or 5 activities here, and you can even jump straight into Timeline from this UI as well, which is very nice. At the top, we would get top apps. So this is the most used apps on your PC, I believe. So if you open settings all the time, which I have for this demo, settings will be here first, and then all of your different apps that you use respectively. You can't move them around or anything, but you can right click on them to get access to their context menus and stuff. So you can have new window, new private window, and all those other normal stuff there as well. Now, if we jump into settings real quick, Microsoft has also updated the behind the scenes of how search works. In the April 2019 update, we go to searching windows here. There's now a new enhanced option, which will index your entire PC and make searching for files everywhere very simple. Or you can set it to classic, which will sort of allow you to choose where you want Windows to search for files specifically. So if you're somebody who only stores all of their files in a certain place, there's no point indexing the entire PC because you know that your files aren't there and it will just take longer to find the files. So you can sort of minimize the search window to a specific location where you know all your files are, and it makes searching for them much quicker. You can also exclude folders, so if you don't want certain folders showing up in search, you can hide them now, which is handy for some people. And then there's also advanced search indexer settings here as well. So that's the search and Cortana improvements. Moving right along, let's take a look at the new Office app. You can see here that Microsoft has introduced a brand new Office app. It is a web app that sort of gives you an overview of all of the Office online experiences and even local Office experiences as well that you can access. So you can see here at the top we have Outlook, OneDrive, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Skype, Calendar, People, Sway, and Forms. I had no idea that Microsoft considered Skype an Office application. Hey, there you go. It's available here. If I click on that, that will just take me to the web version of Skype, which is very interesting. As will any of these links here. So if I click on Word, it'll take me to Word Online. Or if I click on OneDrive, it'll take me to OneDrive Online. Or if I click on Calendar, it'll take me to the online version of Calendar. Even though I have a local version of Calendar installed here, it is still preferring the online version, which is very interesting indeed. And down here, you get your sort of recent documents. So if you're working in Office all the time, you see your PowerPoint presentations, your Word documents, your OneDrive, your OneNote documents, your Excel documents. They'll all be here, and you can click on them and easily launch them very quickly through that UI. You can also pin certain documents to the pinned area here. If we click on that there, that will now show up in the pinned area, so you can never lose certain documents if you need quick access to them all the time. And then you can also see the documents that are shared with you. So if you're somebody who uses Office with a bunch of different other people, whether they're students in your class or colleagues at work, you can have all of those documents located here, so you never lose them again, and it's very nice indeed. There's also a quick and easy upload button, which will upload a document straight to your OneDrive. And you can also create new documents from here as well. So if I want to create a new Excel workbook, I can do that. And that will take me to the online version of Excel to continue with that task. If I click on Install Office up here, this will allow me to go and download the sort of full versions of Office from office.com. This is Office 365, of course, and that will download the desktop versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint. So if you're not a fan of the online versions, you can go and download those. And I assume once you install those, these links will actually take you to those local versions of Office, or rather, I'd hope so, because that would be very silly otherwise. So that's a quick look at the new Office app. A very nice sort of hub area for Office experiences. If you're somebody who lives in Office, this will be very useful to you. If not, then It's another thing to unpin from the start menu, I guess. So another new feature in the April 2019 update is something called Windows Sandbox. Now this is only available to Windows 10 Pro users, and it is something that you have to enable. But once it is enabled, you can click on it, and what this essentially does is loads up another virtual instance of Windows 10 on top of your current live install. And why you would want to do that, it depends on who you are, of course, but basically this allows you to sort of run any program you want within a virtualized container that doesn't affect your actual PC. So if you are downloading a program that you're not too sure about, maybe you're not sure if it has any viruses or malware in it, you can run Windows Sandbox here, download that program and run it within Sandbox. And if it does have a virus, it doesn't affect your actual PC because it's contained within this virtual version of Windows 10. So I don't really know of any viruses to download, but we can just download a normal program here. So let's download Notepad++. And for example, let's pretend that this is a program that we're not too sure about. Perhaps it has a virus, I don't know. I'm not too keen on it, so I'm just going to install it in here just to quickly test it out and stuff. So where's the download? There it is. And what you'll notice is I'm installing this program into the Sandbox, but it isn't affecting my main PC install. So if we click install here, that is being installed to the programs area. We can now run that program within the Windows Sandbox itself. You'll see it in the start menu. You see it in the start menu here. It's installed now. But if we jump into the File Explorer and go into the program files area, you'll see that that is also listed in there as well. There it is, Notepad++, but that hasn't affected my actual version of Windows 10. You'll see that Notepad++ hasn't been installed here into my start menu, and it isn't showing up in my program files either because it hasn't been installed to my PC. It's been installed to the Sandbox running on my PC. So if this was a virus or if this was a program that had malware in it, my actual PC would be safe and the only thing infected would be the Sandbox. So when I close out the Sandbox here, what happens is Windows cleans that Sandbox entirely. Everything that was running in that Sandbox is no longer present on your PC at all. It's completely wiped, and the next time you run it, it will be a brand new clean version of the Windows Sandbox, starting from scratch once again. So a very nice way to sort of test programs you're not too sure about, or if you're an enterprise, you may have specific reasons for running things within a virtual mode, and that's why Windows Sandbox may be useful to you. I think for most people this isn't something people will need, but in case you are downloading a program you're not too sure about, Sandbox is there to help you keep your PC safe. And just real quick, you can see here that since we've relaunched Sandbox, Notepad++ is gone because, like I said, every single time you launch Sandbox, it's a brand new instance. The previous one gets destroyed, so everything is always safe within the Sandbox. I do wish the start button would open though. Yeah, you can see here, Notepad++ is gone. Now, another new change in the April 2019 update is with how downloads are organized. So your downloads folder is now using a sort of timely-based UI, which isn't specifically new to Windows. You've always been able to enable this, but it is now enabled by default. So if we go to chrome.com here and download Chrome, you'll see that when I save this installer, in my downloads folder, you'll see a sort of today tab, and this will change depending on how often you download things. So what's in today will then be yesterday if you download something else, and then last week, last month. So it's always, so the last thing you downloaded is always at the very top. So it's easy to find, easy to run and install or open and access, and then you can easily delete it when you're done with it as well. Moving on to sort of privacy improvements, Microsoft will now show you when sensors are being used on your device in the system tray. So if we open the voice recorder here and start recording, you'll notice that down here, a little microphone icon shows up, and this will tell me what apps are using the microphone right now. So if I click on it here, this will take me to settings, which will allow me to fine tune what programs have access to my microphone here. And you can see currently in use is voice recorder. If I turn that off, that will disable the microphone for the voice recorder app. And there you go, you'll see my microphone isn't working anymore, and that will save me from being spied on. There we go. So that works with the microphone, I believe the webcam, and location. So any app that's trying to pull your location, you'll see a little location icon show up down here, and you'll be able to fine tune what apps get to see that, and so on, which is very nice indeed. Now, moving on to the snipping tool, or rather the modern snipping experience known as Snip and Sketch. This has been updated with a new dedicated window snip mode, which is here. If I click on this, I can now select a window to snip, and that will snip the window perfectly. So I can now do that, and there we go. That window has now been perfectly snipped. Not 1 pixel over, not 1 pixel under. It's the perfect snip of the File Explorer window here. And I can draw on it or whatever I'd be normally doing with Snip and Sketch. In addition, the Cloud Clipboard UI has been updated very slightly. It's now a little bit more keyboard and mouse friendly. You can see here that the UI is smaller now. It's just smaller. Before it was very big because it was sort of emphasizing images and whatnot and touch. But now it's smaller because mouse travel is important to lots of people, and also people were mostly just copying text, not images, even though I've copied plenty of images here. Most people are copying only text. So if we open Notepad here, for example, hello there, I copy that and open up the Cloud Clipboard, you can see the text is showing up there as well, and I can delete it or I can pin it and I can clear all, and that's how that goes. Again, Cloud Clipboard is off by default, especially the cloud bit. The cloud bit's definitely off by default. But you can go into settings and enable it, which, since we're going into settings now, let's take a look at some of the new settings improvements. Again, Cloud Clipboard is off by default. You should turn it on though, it's very handy. Moving right along, the next noteworthy changes in settings. So finally, let's take a look at settings here. There's a lot of different improvements happening in settings right now. More of the old legacy control panel has been sort of implemented into settings, such as old sound stuff and language improvements in here, which we won't really dive into because it's very boring. But some of the more interesting changes are with some of the layouts of certain areas within settings. So if we jump into sign-in options here, you see that Microsoft has sort of redesigned the Windows Hello setup process. All of your sort of security options are now available under this one area here. You can set up Windows Hello face recognition, Windows Hello fingerprint, Windows Hello pin, your security key, password, and picture password straight from this UI. Now, it is showing things that you may not even have access to. For example, this is a Surface laptop, so it doesn't have a fingerprint sensor, but it is showing me the fingerprint sensor here as well for some reason. But I can set up Windows Hello face recognition here, which is pretty much more or less the same. You can just get access to it much easier now. I can add a picture password if I want to. And that takes me to, wow, a very old Windows 8 UI that hasn't been updated in forever. That's very interesting. But yes, that's nice indeed. And you'll see the same sort of improvements being made to the Windows Insider program area here as well. The UI has been updated. Now, for some reason, it takes 100 years to load. But once it does load, you'll see that the UI is a little bit more straightforward. If you're somebody who's new to the Insider program, the rings descriptions have been updated to sort of better describe what they are. Right now, we're in the release preview ring, but there's also a fast ring, which gives the user the chance to give feedback to Microsoft on newest preview builds of Windows. You also get an OS update once or twice a week, which will require a reboot. Very rarely twice a week, usually once. But hey, there you go. And you have the slow ring, which is the ring that never gets any builds, basically ever, maybe once in a while. And even then, they're very far behind the fast ring build. And then you've got the skip ahead ring, which is the next version of Windows usually. Moving into Windows Update, Microsoft has brought forward a number of the Windows Update settings and options to the forefront of the UI. So you can see here we can now instantly pause updates for 7 days from this UI. Those updates are now paused, and I believe you can now pause updates on Windows 10 home devices as well, which is a much welcome change to many people. You can also change active hours here, and there's now a new feature called automatically adjust active hours for this device based on activity. So if you set active hours for, say, set here to 8 AM to 5 PM, but I turn this on, I may be using my PC after 5 PM on a Thursday night because I'm working late or something. So Windows will know that I'm doing that and not try to install an update. I'll go, hey, okay, so I can see you're still working. I won't bombard you with annoying sort of restart prompts. We'll do that at a later date, which is very nice of it, I guess. Then we've got a bunch of advanced options, which is the usual. Let's resume updates here. There are a lot of improvements to the ease of access options in this update, as there is with every Windows 10 update. But the one I specifically want to show off is the ability to change the pointer size with a slider now. So you can just do that, and that gives you a huge slider cursor for those of you who may not be able to find the cursor easily, or if you're doing a presentation or something and you need the cursor to be quite large for people to see, you can do that now, which is very nice indeed. I actually like the number 2. Let's keep it on number 2. If you jump back into here and go down to troubleshoot, Microsoft has redesigned the sort of troubleshooting system so that it works for you. In previous versions of Windows 10 and previous versions of Windows, troubleshooting an issue never really did anything. It was sort of useless. People would usually skip it anyway. But now Microsoft will actively sort of troubleshoot things that you may be having problems with and suggest actual fixes based on the issue you're having, and which will be able to pull them from the cloud and apply them to your device, which should hopefully improve things like device driver compatibility issues or something. Whether it works or not remains to be seen, but there is a system that's available in the April 2019 update. You can see here it's called Recommended Troubleshooting, and hopefully it's very useful. And finally, Microsoft has added a banner at the top of settings, which gives you quick access to things like OneDrive options, your phone setup, Windows updates, and your Microsoft Rewards account, if you use Microsoft Rewards, of course. Gives you like a brief overview of how many points you've got, which is nice, and will quickly and easily allow you to set up a bunch of those things just mentioned. If you haven't got your phone set up, it will give you like a warning saying, hey, you should set this feature up, and then you click on it and it takes you to that feature itself. There you have it, guys. That's a quick look at the Windows 10 April 2019 update. As its name suggests, the update will begin rolling out hopefully at some point in April, assuming there are no issues with the updates, and it will be available as a free download. If you're running Windows 10 already, you'll just check for updates as it becomes available to you, and you'll be able to install it and get all of the latest features. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye.